All right, hello everybody. It's me. It's been a little while. I apologize. We are still trying to get this together. Got the dogs out here at the property. Obviously, pretty amazing view. Look like dirt because I've been working in the dirt all day. Getting our space here ready for another series of dinners this spring and summer and early fall. And really excited to get back on time with these, with our wine videos and just explore more wine. And we were teetering back and forth because there's not many of you out there yet. And we want to make sure that we continue this if there's one person left, because I've kind of decided that it's just as fun for me to go through these wines and just pick them every month and hope that you guys find really cool wines that you maybe have never had, or that you have had something similar or anything like that. So I picked a little white heavy this time because we're getting into spring. It's getting a little warm and nice. And we've got kind of a cool spread. We've got like an entry-level New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. We'll talk about this one first. It's Tiki. I say entry-level because it's not very expensive. The reason it's on here, we balance it out obviously with two other wines that are much higher price. But I wanted to show you, like, this to me is quintessential New Zealand Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. It's one of those things that if you're testing for your sommelier and many different variations of, classes and schools, that this would be like a benchmark Sauvignon Blanc. I brought it in last year. It was delicious. Still think it's delicious. It's getting into the warm weather. I don't know if you can find this retail, but I know that if you can find it, it's one of those bottles that's not super expensive, that it just delivers way above its price point. So Tiki, Marlborough, Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand. New Zealand actually kind of a colder climate. I mean, some people I guess maybe think New Zealand's tropical, but it's so far down south, underneath south of Australia, that you're getting close to the other ice cap on Earth. So it actually is pretty cold, which yields really high acid, really big structure, and not a whole lot of sugar and lower alcohols. So this is let's see here. This is definitely grapefruit. I hate to use the words, but there's a funny thing that a lot of time will say cat piss. Everyone knows what it smells like. Maybe it's not your most appealing smell that you should be talking about, but it's kind of in there. It's kind of funny. So let's have some fun with it. So aromatic. Sauvignon Blanc is such an aromatic grape. It just gives you everything that you could possibly want on the nose. It's actually too big for some people. If you're a big Chardonnay drinker, you probably don't like Sauvignon Blanc because it has so much potency in this grape. But really fresh, really bright, like citrusy, grapefruity kind of bitter notes. Definitely for me, like some fresh basil, fresh oregano, like really herbaceous and fun. And just so damn good. I mean, the acid's so high. It's just a great bottle of wine to drink. You can definitely pair this with food. It's potato season, believe it or not, like a starter. Like I think sometimes how weird it would be, but of like a bacony, mustardy kind of potato salad with some richness to it would go so well with this to offset the richness. If you're going on a lighter style, obviously you could easily pair oysters with a nice mignonette or something like that on it. The possibilities are endless with a fresh, beautiful, aromatic white wine like this. It's really fun. Definitely with a nice fresh salad as well. But yeah, Tiki Estate Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, a marker, kind of one of those things that you should be kind of understanding that this is what it should taste like, which is always a good representation for me. I gravitate towards wines when I'm blind tasting that are really going to showcase exactly what we're trying to figure out. So remember that you got those aromatic qualities of like grapefruit and a lot of like high citrusy, really bright herbaceous notes, really delicious wine, really fun. So from an entry-level Sauvignon Blanc to a very not entry-level Sauvignon Blanc. This is actually Pouilly-Fumé. So it's a small little area on the eastern side of the Loire Valley that is one of the only places in the Loire Valley produce Sauvignon Blanc. Everywhere else it's Chenin Blanc that reigns king. So I thought it'd be really fun to showcase a completely different Sauvignon Blanc. I want to make sure I don't mess this up. So Coyote, and then this is by Domaine du Boucho. I got this a while back. I've been sitting on it. It's a biological, a completely natural wine, which is not something that I usually gravitate towards. But like I've always said, when wine is good, it's good. And if it can be made, biodynamically and also naturally, which doesn't mean the same thing. I've been learning recently. It's really cool, you know, that someone can showcase an incredible wine that's well balanced and without flaws, that's made naturally and biodynamically. So, Puyi Fume, put it down in your little notebook as the only place. I shouldn't say only, it's one of the only places in the Loire Valley outside of Chenin Blanc that does Sauvignon Blanc. So, smell test next to the Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Way more muted, completely different wine. Like it doesn't even smell like Sauvignon Blanc to me now. It's a very strange. You still get those high citrus notes. You still get a little bit of the grapefruit, but not near as much. The other term that we won't restate is also not prevalent. It's not near as robust on the nose. More elegant, finessed. You get a little bit more earthiness to this wine that I think that the Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough had none. Still really bright, really herbaceous, great acidity. This has more on the lines of like lemon and lime versus grapefruit, so a little maybe less bitter, phenolic bitterness than the Marlborough version. This you can tell is grown on a more clay-driven, mineral-driven soil. You taste more of that, as well as being Old World versus New World. This is a wine that's a little more reserved. This is a wine that I see pairing really well with like roasted fish and asparagus with a nice sauce. Asparagus is one of those hard things to pair with. While this wine doesn't have huge amounts of greenness to it, it definitely has some, and it definitely is going to pair really well with something with a little bit of fat. It'll cut it really well, but also something bright. So maybe if you did like a caper lemon sauce over a piece of fish with asparagus, I can see my wife, Jessica, getting hungry right now. I think that that's like a perfect dish, a summer dish for this summer wine. You could serve this really cold and it'd be a little crisper, a little bit lighter. You could serve it a little more at cellar temp and it's going to be a little richer and a little more decadent. But I think all around, what a beautiful wine to share with you guys. Vineyard designate Sauvignon Blanc from the Loire Valley by a really great producer. So kind of a really cool juxtaposition of Sauvignon Blancs. What do you think? Isn't that just... I feel like a really rich guy sitting out here as I'm covered in dirt and my dogs are barking. So next up we have one Malabaya, Mala something. Can't really say it as well as I probably should, but I know the wine really well. This is a Arnese from Ruero, which is on the very top portion of Italy. We ran this on a tasting menu not too long ago, and this is DOCG, so the highest designation of area. That's the Ruero Arnese that you can get in Italy. DOC is the step down, so that's kind of like Premier Cru for the areas, and then DOCG adds in that like Grand Cru area for vineyards. Being up north so much, this has a low alcohol point, you know, not like Riesling low, but much lower. I think it's 13. This is a fun wine. Arnese is like one of those wines that you don't hear about. You won't see it in stores. Unless you're really in the know, you won't know. And this one really represents, I think, the grape extremely well. And it paired with such a fun dish on the menu. On the nose, much more muted. And we're getting into a whole different profile of fruit now. There's more apple and melon on those kind of sides. You get a little bit more density of richness on the nose. It's definitely got some of those characteristics that, you know, I'm looking for in richer white wines that I think pair well with a little bit richer style of foods. But it's a perfect segue from, you know, the brightest to nice and bright to starting to get into a little bit richer. Still got good acidity to it, at least, you know, is from what I can remember. Yeah, so this wine's got some of that buttery content to it. It's got some spice to it. It's definitely got some greenness to it. This is something that I would pair with a nice starter with something with a little bit of spice because it is richer and not so high acidity. I think it pairs well with slightly spicy foods. You could definitely do like a nice little, maybe even like a ceviche but take it a little bit further and go with something like whip a little bit of mayonnaise into your leche de tigre or something like that, just to give it a little bit more body, a little bit more character, and then pair it with like potato chips or tostones, something with a little bit of starch, because I think that'll offset the brightness really well and pair really well with the unctuousness on the back end of this wine. I hope that you guys realize too, I'm gonna state again as I'm talking about this, I'm talking about my love of this wine and what I taste and smell in it. You got to study, you got to learn what, you know, the professionals say and what real sommeliers say. I don't ever like to call myself a real sommelier because I love wine, I love to pair wine, I love to talk about wine. But when it comes to learning from me, you can learn what I think about the wines, but I don't want to be responsible for saying wrong things all the time. Yeah, really great, really fun, interesting white wine. I think you're really going to enjoy this. I like this pretty cold, keeps it from getting too rich on the palate. But yeah, like I'm saying, you could definitely pair this with a chicken dish too. You could go and lean on the more rich tones of it, so you could do like a white wine mushroom sauce over some chicken with some fingerling potatoes, like a more rustic style dish like that I think would go exceptionally well too. So it's kind of a very versatile, fun wine. Arnase, the grape, Ruero, where it's from, the DOCG. If you see some, get it. Next up, we got a super approachable, drinkable Pinot Noir Rosé from Wolf, Villa Wolf, which is a subsidiary of Dr. Lucen, one of the most famous houses in Germany for winemaking. I love this wine. I brought it in. It's from the Pfalz region, so not from the Mosel or anything like that. You don't really see Pinot Noir growing too much in the Mosel, but you definitely see it in the Pfalz. They're starting to produce some really great Pinot Noir as well as a red wine. But this nice rosé, we're getting into rosé season, so I thought it might be good to put one on the wine club. This one's definitely, you know, drink it nice and cold on its own. I know this wine well. Just loves this wine too. It's super delicious and tasty. It's just so aromatic and beautiful, red fruit and floral and like real fresh, bright herbs. Even a little bit of florality, like honeysuckle, not botrytis honeysuckle, but like the actual sweetness of the flower, chrysanthemum or something like that as well. So bright and fresh on the palate. It still tastes like Pinot Noir. You still get that, you know, red fruited cherry kind of flavor to it. Definitely some strawberry in there too. Right away, I'm thinking like, you know, I've said a lot of fish, but, you know, a nice piece of octopus from Localis, or somewhere else, but with like a nice like spiced fruit salad on top. Maybe like a charred strawberry puree or something like that. Throw some strawberries on the grill, lightly toast them. They do take smoke really fast, so be careful. But if you can just get them on a light grill and just toast them up a little bit and puree them, you'll get a really beautiful, slightly smoky puree that I think would pair exceptionally well with this wine. You know, you really don't see rosé of anything else in Germany right now, and I'm not saying there is nothing else, but you don't really see anything else but rosé Pinot Noir right now. This is the 2020, so I'm still drinking super fresh, bright, clean Villa Wolf rosé, delicious, and probably just a splash for the lady because I know that this is one of her favorites of this lineup. So there you go. All right, two reds. I went back and looked, and I think that we've had a similar wine before, but not this specific wine. I love these guys. Railback Fraise. Two brothers. One lives locally, winemaker. Other one lives over in, I believe it's Connecticut or Vermont. They make exceptional wines. Eric, the other brother, made L'Edit, which I thought was fantastic, like Melon de Bourgogne, and a couple of other varietals, Sauvignon Blanc, under that L'Edit or L'Edit label that I thought were just fantastic wines. And the two brothers came together to start Railback Fraise. This is a 2017 red wine, Santa Ynez Valley. As you can see, it's pretty old school. They really wanted to kind of go back to like that old school wine label from California that was more basic, more, I think, timeless, and just really, really cool, you know, basic wine bottle. So often people, you know, put so much effort into an attractive label, and I think this is attractive, but also just really you know, subtle and beautiful. I'm going to read a little bit because I don't want to say the wrong grape varietals. But yeah, this doesn't have it on there, but I know for sure that this is kind of a little bit of a GSM blend. I don't know if there's Syrah, but I know there's some Grenache in there. There might be some Cab Franc in there. It's a Rhone style red for the most part, and really well balanced. We did a dinner with these guys a while back. You'll probably go back on the video and see that there was a different one. I think we did either their Syrah or maybe their Cab Franc. I can't remember, but I know this one is a blend. And right off the bat, it gives you that quintessential California red, and I mean that in the best of ways. I know sometimes California red wines can be seen as, you know, jammy and oaky and too much, but I think that we're starting to see a huge wave of winemakers in California that are coming back to the roots of making wine taste like where it's from, the year that it is, and having less and less influence on trying to manipulate it with oak and these other things. There's definitely a little bit of oak on here, but not near enough to make it prominent in the nose. Tobacco, you get the darker red fruits, maybe even a little bit of blue fruit in there, which maybe thinks that there's a little Syrah in there, or Merlot, one of those two that always give me blue markers. But it smells good. It makes you want to drink it. I love wine that makes you want to drink it. So smooth. I would venture to say this is probably drinking really well right now. Don't sit on it for too long. I think this is made to be a more fresh wine, a more drink closer to vintage wine, and this is just perfuming with all sorts of red and blue fruits. You get those subtle vanilla kind of notes through it. There's some herbaceousness and a little bit of earthiness. Definitely doesn't come off like, hey, I'm a New World wine. You have to maybe think about it for just a little bit and think like, man, well, there's some unctuousness there. There's some forest floor. There's a little mushroom quality in there. There's some tobacco in there. But it is amazing right now. It's drinking so beautifully. And I don't have to lie about it because you're going to be drinking it as well. So I'm sure you will agree. Yeah, and I think when I talked about this maker, different wine, we talked about duck. I would still say that this is right there. It's medium bodied, so it's safe to drink with a lot of different foods. But I would gravitate towards the lighter, more maybe spice driven duck characteristic. Duck with, you know, red curry, even coconut. I think you could get away with that with this wine. It's kind of chameleon-esque on the palate for me, where it seems like it could gravitate towards a lot of different aspects. I think you could go risotto. I think a duck with risotto would be really good. I think definitely as tomatoes come into season, a little bit later, a couple months, you could definitely drink this with roasted tomato sauce or tomato risotto or any of those things. You could go pork, you could go chicken, you could go duck. You could go lamb with this. It's big enough to carry lamb. It's small enough to carry chicken. Very versatile food wine, and delicious red wine. I mean, this is the kind of stuff personally that I can drink. You know, it's not cheap, but it's also not insanely expensive. And winemakers like this are what makes it exciting for me in California. When you have someone that's really designing wines and making wines that are for them. They are wine lovers, and they're making wine that they love. I think that's always kind of like where you want to go with restaurants, right? Like a chef that loves what he's cooking is going to cook that much better than a chef that's cooking food that he has to cook. Same as with wine. These guys just know what they're doing, making beautiful wine. All right, finish this off. Last up for this month is Camino. This is a kind of a sleeper for me. I almost didn't even want to taste it. Sonoma Cabernet Sauvignon. And I thought, like, you know, big deal, you know, I'm not really too interested in it. And then I tasted it and was blown away by the finesse, the roundness of the tannins. And I guess I should pour it before I start waxing poetic about how much I love it. But to me, Cabernet doesn't get the greatest rap in California from, you know, wine snobs and sommeliers and in me. I tie myself in. But I think Sonoma being cooler, you get more structure, you get less high alcohol, less jamminess, more what the grape is about, you know. Bordeaux style is colder weather, you know, ocean influence, and I think that we're seeing that obviously in Sonoma Coast. The Moon Mountain District is where this one's from specifically. The color profile right away is just like, it's beautiful. It's just so rich and dark, you know, magenta. You get really defined layers, really beautiful. It smells like Cabernet Franc. I mean, it smells like Cabernet Sauvignon. I don't even know the grape varietal. This smells so much like Cabernet to me. It's really fun when a wine just smells so much like what it should. I would definitely use this as a marker for California Cabernet. You can tell that there's restraint. You don't taste this, or you don't smell the super jammy, super rich. I don't smell tons of oak on this. I smell Cabernet, which is so appealing to me. Yeah, I know this wine a little better. I chose it because just on Saturday night there was a guest that came in and really just wanted a nice glass of red wine to drink, and they like bolder red wines, and I picked this one and I said, why don't we drink it together? And we did, and I was just kind of blown away again with how good it was and why I purchased it in the first place. Traditional Cabernet Sauvignon, you get the nice red fruit in there. You also get a little bit of the pyrazines, the green kind of notes. It's got some structure, it's got some tannins, but they're well-rounded, really smooth. The acidity is perfect. It's right there in the middle. I think this is, once again, like the Tiki Sauvignon Blanc, it's quintessential for the grape and the place, which is so nice to have. And that's our lineup. So really fun wines. Go heavier on this dish. Everyone says eat filet mignon with Cabernet. I don't get it. Eat a rich steak like a ribeye or a skirt steak or something with a lot of fat to it. That's more what I think gravitates towards Cabernet Sauvignon. But you could go lighter with this too. It's a beautiful wine. It's got just the right amount of pepper to it, and I think food pairing with that is pretty easy when you think about Cabernet. We hope to get better and better at this. We hope to get more members that want to learn about wine. I'm going to continue pushing myself to find cool wines for you guys every month. And we'll see you guys when you pick this up. Come in a little Locales, check out the new menus, check out what we're doing. We're kind of on a roll. We've had a lot of big things happen in our lives lately. James Beard nomination, some really neat stuff. So come in and see us, and let's keep learning about wine together.